how do you see the future of education? Right now, most of us, well, all of us, I think we're teaching online. The government started a really aggressive inoculation program for the teachers. And I think the reason is because they want the teachers to go back to school in September, correct? So, but I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying, right? So this is why most people got inoculated. But my question is, how do you see the future of education? What do you think is going to happen in the future? You know, first of all, are we going to go back to school? Is it better not to go back? I don't know. What do you think? Can you tell me your opinions, please? But not everybody at the same time, one at a time, please. Okay, Osmar.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, in my opinion, despite the fact that we are not so sure if we are coming back or not to class, we are going to have more development or these virtual tools, because we realize that are very, very important, and we should include them whenever we are back, okay? Despite the fact we are not so sure if we are going to go back on this September, but whether we do it or not, we must use more those online tools, virtual tools like Kahoot, Quizzes, all the tools that we have been learning during this pandemic, during this year.
Right. Okay, very good. Interesting observation. Yes, very good. Whether we come back or not, Osmar says, yeah, we should be able to use technology in the classroom. Anybody else, other opinions? Are we going back to school or not? Oh, Maria del Carmen, you have your hand up. I'm sorry. And then, go ahead, Maria del Carmen, and then 14 DQ 1004, Roberto. Go ahead, Maria del Carmen.
I believe that education is gonna be it's gonna be easier for people to access to it, like not just in your hometown, but let's say that I live in Latacunga and I would like my kids to study in a great school in Quito. I think that those schools will open, opportunities for kids to study online. So once they try it, and I've seen it works, your kids will be able to access to that kind of education without living on that place. So, or even for us, if we would like to go and study abroad or have a certificate from Cambridge itself, maybe we could access to that education online without being there. So probably it will be cheaper. People will have more access to education than we used to have it before, because before we had to pay for the airplane ticket, we had to pay for, like not just the tuition for the university, but also the house and the renting or whatever. So
housing.
Housing. So I think it's gonna be definitely a change in that. And also people have realized that we can work from home, so we don't have to stay until 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock. In my case, they made me stay until 4 o'clock twice a week, even though the kids left school at 1:30. So
right. Just
for meetings or whatever. So now they realize that, okay, teachers can also go back to their homes, take a shower, eat a nice lunch at home with your kids, enjoy family time, which is also some of the things that I think we're valuing now. And then, okay, let's meet at 3 o'clock from 3 to 4 or 3 to 3:30, whatever. And that's it. So I think it's going to be a little bit more of that, like enjoying family time and being able to do more things at home or with family than being at your job.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Roberto, I think you were going to say something.
Yes. Sorry, couldn't raise the hand. Yeah, but
that's okay. You just do this. Look.
Yeah, just like this. Yeah. But from my point of view, I think we're living in a transition. Okay, since a few decades ago, for everything. I'm talking about education. What is happening today supposedly should have happened, but is in the next maybe 5 years, more or less. It's part of the transition to use this all the internet and the apps and everything that we're having since few years ago, that came suddenly, with this pandemic, was the opportunity to start. That's why we were not prepared. No one of us, we were prepared because the new age is going to start. This is a transition between the fall of the, excuse me if I speak a little more, but it's after the fall of the wall in Berlin on 1989, the death of a communism, and then the economical earthquake for the capitalism with the this crisis about the mortgages and those things that started in the 2000, and all, even included the education, is changing until the 2030 when it's going to start the new age called voyages to the space, or the new cybernetic age, you know, and education is part of that new age, but it started a little earlier. We're living just a transition, and like any transition, it's taking a time, and it's a kind of an earthquake for the world. It's changing. A priest told me, my history teacher in college told me, it's not the end of the world. When the wall was falling in Berlin on 1989, he said, it's just the change of a new age. And what we're doing in this moment is just part of the changes. Yeah, but it's gonna take a little more time. But the pandemic made things not so, you know, running not so well as we were expecting to do this in few years. Thank you.
No, very good, thank you. As we would have expected. So what you're saying is very interesting. You said this was going to happen, but it should have happened in a few years. But because of the pandemic, now it had to happen immediately, and we were not ready for it. Very interesting. Any other opinions? What do you think? Anybody else? About the future of education and the problems that we've been having? No? What about the quality? Now, what Maria del Carmen mentioned, it's very true. Yes, she mentioned, okay, maybe somebody from Latacunga wants to study in a school in Quito, or maybe somebody from Quito wants to study in a school in Latacunga, or anybody can, maybe decide to study in a school from, I don't know, from another country or something. As Maria del Carmen mentioned. However, do you think the quality of education is going down because of the pandemic? What do you think? No ideas?
Yeah, I guess Erica is speaking, but she has the microphone off. Am I right? I'm sorry.
Eriquita, go ahead.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking.
She was thinking aloud and moving her lips.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, I said, well, I was thinking about that. It depends about the institution because, for example, there are some good institutions which had a very good curriculum, prepared teachers in technology, they have their own platforms for education. So I consider that in that case, the education could increase the level of our students. But on the other hand, there are another institutions which didn't have the access to internet, for example, or the teachers couldn't manage the tools, the technology, and I consider that in that case the education decreased. So all of this depends the kind of institution and where the students are.
Right, very good point. That's very true also, right? And this brings me to something that Osmar mentioned before, right? He mentioned tools, which I agree. Definitely using technology in the schools could be profitable. I mean, for the students, for their students' benefit. But before the pandemic, and I remember in a lot of schools, cell phones were banned. Okay, problem one. Problem two. And I remember when I used to travel to different schools and everything else, and I sometimes visited schools. Please check, we're talking about a long time ago. And technology in that time was, look, we have a brand new laboratory. Okay, look at this brand new laboratory and everything, and you can record the students, blah, 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 blah. Problem one, many of the people didn't know how to use it, okay? Second, okay, and what I think one of you mentioned before, when it comes to technology, yes, it's a good idea to use it in the classroom, but a lot of the schools don't have access to that, right? Let's be really drastic, but in some schools, sometimes there's no electricity. okay? In other schools, they don't have access to internet, right? So even though it's a good idea to have the technological tools for education, but what happens with the limitations, right? And we've all talked about that before, right? Like, I think the previous government, you know, they really bragged about all the new schools they had built and everything else, but St. Rome, there was no electricity, no trained teachers, and there wasn't access to technology or anything like that, right? So what is going to happen in the future? What do you think?
May I say something very brief? You know, it's a
Go ahead,
blended
go ahead.
education. It's a blended education. As I told you, we were not ready for this. Then it's happening in many countries in Latin America, you know, in countries and ways of development. The point is that now we're not so, and please correct my mistake about the word, encyclopedic, is that correct?
Okay, could be.
Encyclopedic style, you know, as used to be in our days until a few years ago. And this is still in many schools. Now it's more about the experience that you learn from a project. Yeah.
I think it's something important that you mentioned is the fact that it really depends on the country. The idea of creating schools is not enough. We need to train the teachers a lot too, right? How do you foresee the future? Can teachers be replaced in the future?
I would like to
Can-
say something, Santiago.
Go ahead, Maria Jose.
Yeah, I have heard people that is losing their jobs. I have heard that they are joining with some other teachers and creating online schools.
Mhm.
And I think, like Maria del Carmen said before, that education is going to be cheaper, and maybe with all these technological advantages, we can have better results when teaching. Could be.
Okay, could be. Again, right. It really depends on how we take advantage of this, right? And if we help our students to take advantage of what it is that we're doing, right? Very good. Thank you, Maria Jose. Any other comments? Go ahead, Angel.
I think that this situation is changing our
Sorry,
mind,
Lisette.
not just like teachers. Also, I am talking like in my position of mother of two crazy boys. And because actually I am a preschool teacher, and at the beginning of this, I didn't believe in this. And like a teacher and like a mother, I didn't believe that my kids, my 3 and 4 year old kids, are going to respond good to a virtual class, because I could see in my kids that when I give them the cell phone and I make them watch YouTube, they just watch for 20 minutes or 10 minutes, and then just they go away, they play around the house, and then they go back to the cell phone for 5 or 10 minutes more. And I was thinking 40 minutes in front of a computer, or now in our school, it's 1 hour and 50 minutes. Sit down in front of a computer. And I was thinking, this is so wrong, at least for preschool. But now that I've worked, that I've tried during a whole year and a couple of months now, during a whole year, like a mother and like a teacher, I think that we could improve more. And I think that that's better, because we are thinking, what can I do to make this better? What can I do to get to my children? What can I do to get to my students? What can I do to have that attention that I got in the classroom right now for like 1 hour and 50 minutes in front of a computer, that not even for me it's easy, because sometimes I talk and talk. You don't see me in class. Miss Katia knows kind of how I am in class. I am like, hello, good morning, yes, let's go dance. But I am a person, and sometimes I get tired. And if I get tired, I don't imagine my students or my children's. So I think that in that way, this I can see that the good thing of this situation, because
Right.
this makes us change your mind and improve and have personal growth and all that.
Mhm. Thank you very much, Lisa. Now you mentioned something very interesting, correct? And this is something that I've mentioned before. This is called action research, right? It's challenging the teacher. Okay, I'm trying this in class. It's not working. What do I do? How can I improve it? How can I change it in order to engage my students? So we're constantly doing that, even though we're not conscious of it, right? But this is very important. Also, the fact that whatever we thought, oh my goodness, this is going to be terrible, it's not going to work, and then Lisa later realized, hey, it does work, and I can also adapt it. So this is part of the change, right? This is part of the constant change that all humans have to go through, and especially teachers when it comes to methodology and everything else, right? Because we're using new methodologies now, right? Angel, go ahead. You were going to say something.
Yeah, it's very funny because I was remembering in 2016, 2017, I was working in a school, and I was watching how students from 7th, 8th grade, they had a teacher for IT terms. A teacher for technology. I don't know exactly how do you call here technology, computing, IT. I don't know.
IT. Mhm.
IT. Okay, very good. And all of them every year, maybe when they were doing the open house, they were in an exhibition. That way, they were making computers or monitors or keywords made from trash, maybe cardboard, maybe cartoon, and now they are working every day with not of cartoon, no fiction. They have to work exactly with real computers. Mm-hmm. Some of them with tablets, some of them with devices that impossible to think in 2016, 2017. Mm-hmm. And now, this seems funny. Maybe 2-3 years ago, 4 years ago, and a fiction, and now it's a reality. Second, I was thinking technology came, and it's going to be difficult to return to the paper. I think that it's going to be very difficult to return to the past, because this was a change suddenly. From now, suddenly everybody working with a computer, everybody working with a tablet. Wow, wonderful. Now, I suppose, in my opinion, everybody is expecting September, everybody is going to come to classes again. I don't think so, because technology came, and in my opinion, it's going to be difficult to a step. No. I can imagine how many notebooks and copybooks did you buy this year? No paper waste. Can you imagine this year we're going to buy a lot of notebooks? No. Environmentally thinking, and no paper waste for this year. And somebody told that in 2022, it's going to end this situation. In 2022, maybe next year in December, I can feel like a reality that we in September we're going to go, because, for example, in my school, 30 students per classroom. Okay, and I'm thinking parents are going to be confident in order to send your daughters and sons to school, maybe traveling by trolley. I'm thinking in the school bus, that all of these school buses are crowded. What space? I'm thinking, how can you have a distance in the school bus, a distance which is impossible to think.
Right.
Many things I'm thinking that I cannot see real to come back to classes in September.
Okay.
But and the quality, talking about that, say Erika, and talking about the quality, I think that it's going to have to be greater. But somebody in their homes, maybe I suppose parents that were educated old-fashioned, that some of them, they are not so confident, that they are not thinking seriously about the progress and the technology and the new steps. Some of them are not believing that that's a way. The student, okay, because they were experimenting with games, video games, and they are maybe some familiar with, but parents that have been educated in the old-fashioned way, they are not thinking, they are not believing, they are not thinking seriously about the progress, the technology, the new way. And why we have parents thinking in that way, it's going to be very difficult, that they cannot reinforce the students to change and to give the best, because they were thinking, no, my way was the best. The old way was the best. How can we convince to parents that this is the progress and it's going to be impossible to give a step to the back? No, I don't think so.
Very, very interesting your point of view, Angel, and it's good to see that in general. I think you are thinking that way, right? Okay, this is it. This is the future, and we have to live it, and we have to adapt. Okay, so it's very interesting what you mentioned, going back. Okay, go ahead, Eriquita, go ahead.
I disagree with Angelito, because I consider that for education, there are so many people who are into that. Parents, students, teachers, and authorities too. So it doesn't depend from the parents' education, or maybe just for teachers' preparation, or just for the needs that the students have. It depends also to the system, okay? For example, I don't want to do this kind of comparisons, because, for example, students who are in a private school, for example, they had a very good quality of education because they are interesting, and also they have the resources and they have a good economy in order to afford that kind of education. What happened with the students who are from schools which are in the far, or they are very far, maybe they don't have the accent to internet, teachers don't have the accent, or maybe they can communicate with their students. So we live in a country with different kind of scenarios, I think. Yes, and I consider that another important point that we have to take into account in the future is the interactions, because education is not just knowledge; it's also the skill that the students develop in order to share with others, and that is another very important point. I'm not sure that in this virtual way we have a real interaction. I don't know, because also it depends to the age too. For example, we are adults, maybe for us is easier, and also it's better to communicate in a virtual form. But what happened with children, okay? They need to play with other. There are some cases that they are only childs and they need someone to play, to interact, and that is part to education too.
Yes, I agree with you, Erica, and that is what I wanted to say. Because mommies always said to me, like, Tia Maria Jose, why or when are we going back to classes? Especially because they have small kids, and they said, as Erica said, they need to play, they need that social, those social activities, interaction. So that's why I think parents go like crazy. Okay, when are you going back to school?
Okay.
That's why it will be better if we can find a balance between the virtual and the physical classes. Because if Santiago says, we had old-fashioned schools. Now we improve a little bit, and now we know virtual classes and all that stuff. But if we stuck in the virtual only, we are going to be stuck. We are not going to improve anymore, because I know how to use Zoom, I know how to use Teams, I know how to do this, and I am not going to find more. But if now I try a new thing that is, we call it, how we call it, Katia? Híbrido?
Hybrid
Blended.
Yes.
or blended education, yes.
Yeah, that it's presential and virtual. We are going to find more things to improve. We are going to find how to get that interaction, because yes, I know that I have the bless that my kids are 2 and they play together. But like you said, there are some kids that they are only child and not even the mommy or the daddy gives them attention. So they are alone and they
Right.
need interaction with other kids.
Mhm.
So yes, we can find a balance. I think so.
Okay, well, excellent. Thank you very much. Very interesting points of view. And yeah, definitely, I think that'll probably be the answer, maybe finding a balance.
It's because the schools are not going to, they're not going to have the necessity to pay us benefits, social insurance.
Obviously.
The machine is always smiling. I could work 24 hours per day. Yeah.
And no problem. That's true.
And for many,
Some of us are machines, actually. Some of us work so hard that we are like machines, but we'll see.